What's going on, everybody? Scott Bogman here for Betting Pros to tell you my favorite picks and player props for Week 12 of the college football season. Remember, if you want to check in on my picks, you can over at bettingpros.com/Bogman, or you can look for me on the Betting Pros app and follow along with all the bets that I have for college football and the NFL. So, last week, taking a look back, good on the picks, 4-2, started 0-2. Wasn't too happy with that. Miami, I'm just done with Miami. We're not doing that again. Also, Minnesota couldn't hold up against Rutgers. Weird one in the Big Ten there. The touchdown calls, I was 0 for 2. Not a good week on those. 5-5 on the yardage props, so just okay there. But let's get into what we have for Week 12. We're going to start with one tonight, UCLA at Washington under 46.5, and these teams are 14-5 this season when playing to the under. UCLA has played well recently, winning 3 after that brutal stretch. Remember, they had the number 1 strength of schedule in college football. They currently still have it as well, but just a real bad stretch to open up the season for UCLA. You really know where they stood. Now we know that they're pretty good, but I think Washington at home should have an advantage. They've struggled recently, going 1-3 in their last 4 games, and 26 is their highest team total in that stretch, which is, again, we're not picking a side here. Maybe Washington doesn't win this game. Maybe UCLA wins this game, but we like the under either way here. Washington has played much better at home this season. They have to win this game to get to a bowl game, which is why I kind of like their side here, even though I'm taking the under, but I think that's going to make them play with some passion on the defensive side against a UCLA team that has been scoring some points here recently, because they have to win this game to get to a bowl, because the only other game that they have this year to qualify for a bowl is at number 1 Oregon. So very important game for the Huskies, a lot on the line for them. Their offense hasn't been playing great. UCLA's defense has been playing a little bit better recently against an easier schedule. So I think this all adds up to a low-scoring scrap on a Friday night. In the rain, it looks like. It looks like cold and rainy in this game. Well, cold for me. I'm from, Arizona and Texas. So anything below 50 is cold to me. So, but cold and rainy, it looks like in this game. So I'm going to take the under 46.5 in that one. We're going to hit another under. And I've talked about these ones a couple times. Utah, Colorado, it just remains one of my favorite unders of this week. 45.5 is a total in this game. And, for me, it's when I look at what Utah has been doing, and even in losses, because they've lost 4 straight, 5 straight, it's been a decent amount. Utah's been playing great defense to stay in those games. Even BYU, who they, lost to controversially last weekend, but the total in that game was 43, and BYU hadn't played a game total below 60 in their previous 4 games. 31 was the total for them against Houston, who plays great defense. 13-7 they lost to TCU. They held TCU to 13 points, and in all the other Big 12 games TCU had played this season, 68.8 points was their average score. Their average total in those games. So Utah, the Achilles heel for them has been on offense. They're just not good on offense. They were kind of seeming to get together on offense under new quarterback Brandon Rose, but he's been ruled out for the rest of the year. This also has a very weird local 10 a.m. kickoff time, which may have these teams both coming out a little bit sluggish in this one. So for me, the under 45.5 in this game, I just don't think Utah's going to score many points. Colorado's defense has been pretty good, and their defense knows they have to play up to keep them in this game. They still have bowl eligibility on the line. So there's nothing to play for Utah. This is a team that can let that bad loss turn into 2 losses. We saw Iowa State do it. Last week, they lose to Texas Tech, and then they end up getting smacked by Kansas. So that could happen in this game for Utah, but I don't really think that is what is going to happen. I think this is going to be another low-scoring affair. I think Colorado wins it. I think Colorado probably wins it going away, but this could be 24-7 or 27-3. Somewhere in that range. I just think this is a low-scoring game. Even if they run away with it, 35-7 still only gets us to 42 points. So under 45.5, I believe, is very reasonable. Let's go to, not everyone's favorite. I'm going to lay 13.5 for a road team, but it's Oregon going on the road against Wisconsin. And this is a big line, but Oregon has been covering these big lines ever since that Ohio State victory. 30.5 against Purdue, they covered that. 21.5 against Illinois, covered. 14.5 against Michigan. They've covered every spread so far this season that is under 17.5 points, Oregon has. So Wisconsin, they're a middling Big Ten team. They beat the teams. They're very black and white this year. They beat the teams they should. They lose to the teams that should beat them. And that's just how it goes for them. They bowed up and played well against Penn State. They still ended up losing that game overall and against the spread. So Penn State, I just, Oregon here, they are going to be down. They're one of their best wide receivers in Tez Johnson. But Jordan James looks like he's trending towards playing, and Locke is really the key here. He is the fourth worst qualified QB in turnover-worthy play percentage this season. And I just think once Oregon gets the lead, that is what is going to happen. We're going to see Locke turn the ball over, and it's going to be a duck killing here. I think they're going to lay out the Badgers. I don't think this one's going to be very pretty at the end of the game, even in Madison. So give me the Ducks. I'm going to lay the 13.5 here. We're going to follow a recent trend. We're going to take Notre Dame versus Virginia over 50.5. And Notre Dame has been putting up almost the majority of this in every game here. They've covered the total in 3 of their last 4 games. Virginia's coming off a big win against Pitt, but they're massive underdogs in this game. Virginia is 82nd in scoring defense. They grade 81st or lower in every PFF defensive grade, and they're 106 in defensive EPA. I just think what we see from Notre Dame gets rolling downhill, and they just roll over the next team. They're going to do the heavy lifting. Virginia has only scored fewer than 20 points twice, and they're a top 15 scoring offense in the fourth quarter. So, if Notre Dame's defense lifts off the gas a little bit and they only have 42 points, I think Virginia could score late as well. They've proven to not give up this season by scoring in the fourth quarter. This is just an easy trend, and I expect this to move up. It really hasn't, which surprises me, but I just think Notre Dame gets all of, or most of, if not all, of this total again, and they're just going to continue to be putting up points on these teams that are inferior to them. Illinois is a 2.5-point home favorite versus Michigan State. We're going to take that. Illinois is not bulletproof, right? And I think cash, tickets, money, everything is split almost right down the middle in this game. But the Spartans have improved, but they still have their eyes on a bowl berth. I just don't see them beating this Illinois team, especially this Illinois defense. Quarterback Aiden Childs has been up and down this season, but 14 turnovers have led him to the highest turnover-worthy play rate among QBs with 200 dropbacks, and that's the 112 we talked about with Braden Locke. So I just think MSU, they've been solid on defense. Maybe this is a low-scoring affair, but this spread is only 2.5 points. It's not like they have to win by 7 and a hook, 10 and a hook, or anything like that. I just think that they are a much better team than Michigan State. And Michigan State can bow up, they can play well, but they're stronger on offense. I think they're stronger on defense as well. I don't think that this 2.5 points is respecting Illinois enough. I know they haven't been as good recently as they were to start the season, and they were probably overrated in that run, but I still think they're much, much better than Michigan State. So we'll see how that one plays out. I got 2 more unders for you here, which is not usually my thing. I usually don't like taking unders, but Houston at Arizona, let's go under 46.5. Houston's 1-8 to the under this season. Arizona is 4-5. So, 8-1 and 5-4. So, Houston has only played in 2 games that have hit this total in 2024. Arizona has been allowing big totals recently, but 33 is the most Houston has scored. In Big 12 games, Arizona has averaged just 16.6 points. Arizona's defense has been rough, but Houston is 132nd in scoring offense and grade 117th in overall offense, according to PFF. And Arizona's 107th in scoring, and they grade 80th in offense. So we have two bad offenses and one of the better defenses in the Big 12, if not the best defense in the Big 12 in Houston. So I think Houston controls this game. Arizona has kind of been pushed around recently. I don't know who wins this game because Houston has not been able to score very well. But I just think that this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly game in Arizona, and I'm going to take the under 46.5. The last under I'm going to take here is Clemson at Pitt under 52.5. Pitt is struggling on offense. They had 11 going into the fourth quarter against SMU before putting up 2 touchdowns to get to 25 in that game. They were held to under 300 yards against Virginia, who we just talked about is not a very good defensive team in that Notre Dame game where we're taking the over. Clemson has hit a little bit of a wall offensively the last 2 weeks, too. Their totals have been 21 and 24. They're 4-1-1 playing to the under in their last 6. Pitt is 4-1 in their last 5. Pitt's quarterback, Eli Holstein, is questionable to play in this game. And Pitt has just been bad on offense, even in that win against Syracuse. 3 pick sixes. We talked about a couple weeks ago. One of the lowest teams in time of possession. Their defense is pretty good, too. They grade well across the board. Pitt has been winning games with defense this season. And Clemson is, I don't know that they'll struggle to score in this game, but we've also seen them let off the gas. So if Pitt is really having trouble scoring, right, as they have, or if they have to go to Nate Yarnell because Eli Holstein doesn't play in this game, I just think they're going to have a hard time putting up points either way because they have recently, and Clemson is kind of hitting a wall, and they kind of take their foot off the gas at the end of games. We've seen them do it before. So under 52.5 is the total here, and I'm going under. So lots of unders for me. 4 this week. It's not really my thing. So, but just to repeat, we're going UCLA at Washington under 46.5. We're going Utah, Colorado under 45.5. We're going Oregon minus 13.5 at Wisconsin. Notre Dame versus Virginia over 50.5. We're laying the 2.5 and taking Illinois against Michigan State. We're under 46.5 in that Houston-Arizona game, and we're under 52.5 in Clemson at Pitt. Before we get to the props, are you looking to up your game in sports betting? Join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who provide free picks for NBA, NFL, MLB, college sports, player props, live betting, and more, but now you can also participate in our weekly community picks, cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success. Do it today. Just go to bettingpros.com/chat. All right, on to the props here. I got 2 touchdown props for you. We're going to go Ashton Jeanty, Boise State. First touchdown in the game is plus 205. So look, this is just me finding a way to get plus money on Ashton Jeanty scoring a touchdown. My guy Aaron actually pointed this out to me, so appreciate you, Aaron. He has done this in 3 games this season. He scored 1 million touchdowns. So it's very, very reasonable against San Jose State that if Boise State gets the ball first, Ashton Jeanty could easily be the first touchdown in this game. The other touchdown that I'm going to do, only 2 this week, Dillon Gabriel, you're getting plus 135 at Wisconsin. I already talked about how I think Oregon walks Wisconsin out of the stadium here. He has 6 rushing touchdowns this season, and Wisconsin has given up 4 rushing touchdowns this season to QBs. And actually in the last game against Iowa, Sullivan scored a touchdown. So I think this is a very gettable one for Gabriel. We're getting plus money on both these, which makes them a little dicier most of the time, but I like both those calls. So plus 135 for Gabriel, plus 205 for Ashton Jeanty to be the first touchdown in that game against San Jose State. We have 3 passing yard props for you. Kevin Jennings for SMU, 229.5 at Boston College. He's hit this in 5 straight games. BC defends the run decently, 45th to statistically 14th in grade but they are way better against they're way better against the run than the pass. 102nd statistically, 45th in coverage, but only 80th in pass rush for BC. I think Kevin Jennings can get this total fairly easy. Now, right before I record the show, they took it off, so it might bump up to like 233, 240. I would be okay under 250, honestly, for Kevin Jennings against Boston College. Drew Allar, 232.5 at Purdue. Purdue has played miserably on defense this season. They are 108th in pass defense. They're 129th in coverage grade. They're 112th in pass rush. So they're not putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They're not covering well. Drew Allar, I think, can easily pass this against a Purdue team. And this would just be good going into the postseason to potentially get your confidence up. Let's go with Jake Retzlaff, 232.5 for BYU versus Kansas. Just look at the recent history of QBs against Kansas, right? Kansas has been playing great football. I don't want to take anything away from them. I think BYU might be on shaky ground in this game, but Rocco Beck, 383 yards. Avery Johnson, 253. Houston had three quarterbacks. They combined for 237 yards. We talked about how miserable they are on offense. ASU is the only Big 12 team that hasn't hit this against them because Hoover had 356 and Green had 295. So most QBs are hitting this against Kansas. They've been playing great on offense recently. The defense is still bad. And if the offense is going to play great against BYU, maybe they have to go point for point. So I definitely think Jake Retzlaff can hit this total. Going over to rushing yards here, we got two quarterbacks and one running back. But we're going to go Jalon Daniels in that same game, 35.5 yards versus BYU. He's hit this in 5 games in 3 straight. We saw Brandon Rose run for 55 against BYU last week. Rizek and Brown hit a total of 40. Rangel, Bowman, and Presley all played for Oklahoma State, and it was 77, 19, and 11. So a ton of rushing yards from the quarterbacks against BYU this season. Yes, the sack yards count, which make it dicey, but Jalon Daniels is a runner. I think he's going to have a ton of rushing yards here. The other quarterback, we're going to take Washington State's quarterback, John Mateer, 53.5 at New Mexico. And honestly, it was just pick your poison in this game. Where do I want to put my bet on Mateer? Do I want to put it in the passing prop for a touchdown? I thought this rushing prop of 53.5 is very, very reasonable. New Mexico, 129th against the run. He's hit this in 5 games this season already. He's a runner, and I think he is going to gash New Mexico. I think it's going to be way more than this 53.5. And the running back, we're going to take Jeremiyah Love for 61.5 versus UVA. I already talked about how I like Notre Dame in that game. I think they're up. I think they're running late. And looking at running backs with 10-plus carries versus Virginia, Desmond Reed last week, 16 for 80. Omari and Hampton, 26 for 105. Isaac Brown, 20 for 146. The Maryland running backs are the only two with 10 carries that didn't pass this that are FBS competitors against Notre Dame this year, and Claiborne had 21 for 86. I mean, most running backs, if you give them 10 carries, which I think Jeremiyah Love could get to in this game fairly easily, are getting this total. So I think that is a safe bet. For the receiving yards, we're going to go with Syracuse tight end Oronde Gadsen versus Cal. It is 48.5. He's passed this 5 times this season. Cal is 79th in pass defense statistically, and I just think they're going to be playing from behind as they usually are because the defense is fairly miserable. And 48.5, I think, is very, very doable. Ja'Cory Brooks, so Louisville wide receiver, 85.5 at Stanford. Stanford, 127th in pass defense. They grade 117th. They're miserable on the back end. Brooks has passed this in 5 games, and Wake Forest is the only Power 4 school against Stanford that didn't have at least one target with 85 yards receiving. So I think Brooks can easily get to this total. And the last one I got from my guy CK, Dymere Miller from Rutgers, 59.5 at Marshall. He suggested this one, and I looked a little deeper into it. Maryland, 124th against the pass. They grade 109th. He's Rutgers' leading wide receiver. He's hit this in 4 games in 2 of the last 3, and he has 33 targets in the last 2 games. So Dymere Miller for Rutgers against Marshall. So those are my picks and props for the week. Remember, you can tail me over at bettingpros.com/Bogman, or just open up the Betting Pros app and punch in my name, and you can find me and follow me for my picks. And good luck, everybody. It should be a fun week again, and I will see you next week for week 13. We're rolling towards the end very, very quickly here. But good luck, everybody, and I will see you next week. Take it easy.